get in on here. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lorecast Eternals. My name's Phil.
My name is Mitchell.
And we have a guest host on today.
Hey, hello. I am Matt.
I don't think he's really classified as a guest anymore.
Well, he's a reoccurring guest host at this point.
That was really close to another word, but we're just gonna glare past that at the moment.
Those are big words coming from someone who can't even string together words, much less big words.
Okay, bud, I've had 3 pints of beer. Let's calm down now.
Over like 3 hours with food. You get off your high horse.
You don't know what I drank beforehand. It was water.
Yeah, I was about to say, Mitchell, this ain't 2019. Shut up. Anyway. Yes, unfortunately, Jacob was not able to join us today. He's had some family emergencies come up recently. And he unfortunately could not make it to the recording today.
We have been kind of waiting on him, but then everything kind of just continued to fall apart. And
life has been very busy recently, unfortunately, for both Jacob and myself.
And, yeah. So here we are with emergency episode. And we got Matthew.
Emergency meeting.
Yeah. So our plan for today is last time Matthew was on.
Yeah.
We were doing the... What were we doing? Idenef? No. I remember we mentioned the Idenef. That's right. Yeah. We were doing Nagash. I remembered we mentioned the Idenef, but that was in the context of, you know, the rats gnawing a hole in the ocean and then Nagash going, what the fuck are these sea elves doing here?
Yep.
All right. So... today we're going to go a little more into Matthew's, personal lore and backstory.
Like, why is he here? Who is he? And why has he, have we gained a fourth host?
We shall see. So the big thing about Matthew is that Matthew is a good friend of ours and he lives nearby. So he's convenient.
Yeah.
That's really about it.
And as long as we provide him with food, usually he doesn't give a shit what we do with him. So, it's pretty great.
That or go, just literally kidnap him from his dog.
Okay, but, he ain't got no social life. So,
I really fucking don't. I work, I sleep, I work and sleep again. That's all I do.
So, yeah, this is Matthew's opportunity to, leave the fucking house.
It really is.
Let me out of my closet, please.
Oh, look, we've triggered existential dread in Matthew. So, mission achieved.
We
got him, boys.
We really wanted to take this episode to kind of really introduce who is Matthew, what is Matthew, why is Matthew.
Those are all good questions.
What is Matthew?
What is Matthew?
And guess what?
Hopefully he's human.
Matthew can't answer any of those. Whatever you do, don't take my jacket off.
Anyway, yes, and in terms of the longer episode in general, we're going to let Matthew take this opportunity to really ask us some questions because he's heard a little bit about AOS. And
he's more of a 40K person. But
yeah, he's more of a 40K guy.
We all are, but...
Exactly. And we're also going to kind of take this episode to really walk through some of the history of AOS and kind of get everybody a little caught up to date on what all is going on with the story right now. So first of all...
Maybe. We're really focusing on Matthew.
Yeah. So Matthew, what is the velocity of a laden sparrow?
Swallow.
I don't give a fuck. He doesn't know the answer anyway.
11 meters per second, 20 to 22 miles per hour.
I think he knew the answer.
Yeah, because he Googled it, which is why I asked him about a different fucking bird. Anyway, now that we've gotten our Monty Python reference out of the way. So, let's see here. Unfortunately, Jacob isn't with us tonight, but you first met Jacob back in middle school, high school?
Toward the middle of 8th grade. Kind of hung out with him and the rest of the little crew a little bit throughout high school, and then really started hanging out with him and playing games with you guys and kind of got to really got to meet and know everyone about a year or two.
Sorry, the chair just dropped out from under me.
Oh, the classic.
Oh no.
You want
to... a bitch.
I'm going to move that thing for you, bud.
I got it. I'm just going
to... Can you hit that far left?
This one?
Yeah. Never mind. The far right.
Oh. Which is also...
There we go.
There we go. That turns off that.
Oh, okay. Problem solved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, also, I just turned it off.
Yes, but there's no reason why the habits
Technical
switch
difficulties, everyone.
All right, cool.
Okay,
So
okay.
we're back.
And then it was about roughly about a year and some change ago was when I really started hanging out with everyone a lot in Discord, playing games with you guys. Thank you, Helldivers, for ruining my life for about 2.5 months and preventing me from getting any sort of decent
Excuse
sleep.
you. Are you bad talking managed democracy?
Of course not.
That sounds pretty undemocratic, Mitchell.
Very undemocratic.
Thank you. Freedom camp for you, sir, good sir. Become executed. Bang. So unfortunately, we've lost Matthew.
Rip. And yeah, we've just been gaming, doing Dark Heresy, D&D related stuff, and a bunch of random little things here and there with Jacob and the gang and all that fun stuff. And
Cool.
then I ended up here.
So let's go a little bit further on that. So obviously we talked about 40K and how that's kind of your first exposure to Warhammer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what was your first introduction to Warhammer? What really drew you to it?
We have to go back a little further to the old house where in the town they live in.
Yeah.
Or the apartment, rather.
Yeah, the old apartment. We've discussed the old apartment.
Yeah, the old apartment.
Wait. We're talking about that one?
Yes, the old apartment.
Yeah.
The one that I used to go like visit every other weekend, and I would drive all the way from Bryan College Station to go hang out at, and you were like, "Where the hell are you disappearing to every other weekend?"
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that I walked into and I just went, James?
Yes, that one, that apartment. Okay, so
And it was like one of the first, I think it was the first time or one of the first few times I had popped up over there and everyone was hanging out there. And then, forgive me, I have to bring up an old name that isn't exactly very pleasant. Keith.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so my first introduction to Warhammer wasn't exactly good because that was when I started
Yes.
doing D&D was with that.
Yeah.
My first introduction to Warhammer was not
We don't
very
talk
good.
about that. We don't talk about that. Shut the fuck up.
Somebody can't
We've already discussed this. Shut up.
explain.
I will be under your damn bed tonight, Mitchell. You keep that out of your mouth.
My bed is a tank. I'd like to see you try.
24 inches of steel doesn't give a fuck.
We all know that you're not that big.
Mitchell, if I had 24 inches of steel in me, I think I'd rather go to a hospital than be under your bed.
yeah, no, I'd probably do the same thing. So yeah, that was my first like actual introduction into Warhammer 40K was
At the house.
yeah that
Yeah.
little
Oh yeah, I remember. Oh, I remember that now. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were doing Dark Heresy.
yeah on
And,
Keith's
yeah, that
Dark
was-
Soul Dark
Yeah,
Heresy.
that was.
I'm so glad.
There's a reason I don't remember much of that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, that's
Was
fair.
it the
That's
Everclear?
fair.
That was one time, and actually I handled that pretty well. No, I just like completely dissociated from my own body and just sat in the corner and was like, and I just mad dogged
So-
everyone, and I was like, "What the fuck do y'all looking at?"
you did exactly what I do when I get gin drunk and I just become a third person mode. I'm just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm just like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, no, I literally sat in the chair and just kind of like mad dogged everybody. And everybody was like, "Bro, are you good?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm great." And they'd be like, "Your voice and your eyes do not match each other." And I'm like, I have no idea what my body's doing right now. This Everclear is something fucking different. Never give it to me again.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So apropos of that campaign, we're not gonna talk about that. I had a really big interest in 40K because there wasn't really a whole lot of, at least for me, sci-fi, fantasy, things like that I've been introduced to, aside from like Star Trek, if you really want to count that. Dead
Space
Space.
fantasy is something
Yeah, space
I love.
fantasy. Yeah, there we go. My
Yeah,
bad.
space opera.
I think space fantasy, because space opera is always typically more in regards to a love story. So if we want to include...
Well, I mean, Star Wars is a space opera, but really it's more the fact that it has like the magic in it.
Yeah.
It's where you focus more on the characters and less on the science.
But like I had been introduced to Star Wars, Star Trek, Dead Space, to name a few stories and world settings in some side of like high space fantasy thing.
Yeah.
But there was just something about Warhammer that was intrinsically different for me at the time. That was kind of like, you're going to consume this, and it's going to consume your life and your wallet at some point.
Yep. That tracks.
And at the time, I was running a D&D campaign that was just oddly enough called D&Z Homebrew. My bad. And I was like, you know what? I really like Warhammer. I also like the campaign I'm running, so I had changed it from D&Z to Contagion 4.0. This was the first iteration of what I had talked to you about before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And essentially, it was a world that was like on the fringes of the Imperial control, and it revolved around this planet that had developed kind of outside of Imperial control under the rule of an Inquisitor that was trying to work on his own little secret project to combat something.
Yeah, that sounds pretty inquisitorial.
Yeah. So he kind of let the world develop as is, and no one on this planet knew about the Greater Imperium. They didn't even know that the Inquisitor was an Inquisitor. They just thought he was some hyper-intelligent, smart dude with a bunch of resources at his disposal.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell out of doing that. And then when I moved, I was going through a bit of a rough time. And I kind of dropped out of 40K and D&D and a bunch of other things. And this is when Sean actually moved in with me. And we were talking about 40K one night. And he's like, you may like Luton. Everyone who loves 40K knows about Luton, the lore master.
Yeah. Even if you don't like 40K, we all love Luton.
Yeah. Luton's sleep code, man.
Luton's great.
Yeah, he 100% is. And I don't remember what video it was in particular. I think it was his Emperor of Man video number 2. I think.
Oh yeah, because he has like that whole series.
Yeah. That was a video, just how he described the Emperor, what the Emperor's plans was, and just kind of everything that had happened. Because I didn't know about the broader spectrum of the story of 40K. I didn't know about the Horus Heresy. I didn't know anything about prior to 30K. I didn't know that there was a distinct difference between 30K and 40K. I didn't know about the War in Heaven, the Age of Apostasy, the every other little traumatic age that the humanity had ever gone through.
Yeah.
And then
War
I started,
of the Beast.
Yeah, the War of the Beast and all that fun stuff. And then I got into Luton, and that was what really like sealed me getting into it and actually learning about the lore of 40K. And then I stopped watching his videos for a while because I'd watched the majority of his content.
Yeah.
And then I waited.
I love Luton, but
Yeah.
he's I appreciate the quality, but that level of quality comes with a certain expectation that his videos take a little while to produce.
Yeah, and
it's a video essay.
Yeah, it really is.
It really is, yeah.
And
there's nothing wrong with that, but yeah, it's definitely like, hey, it's going to take like a couple months between episodes, unless it's a really short one.
Yeah, might as well be a podcast.
Essentially.
No, not a podcast, an audiobook.
Yeah,
Like,
dude, fucking for real, though. If
yeah,
they could get him to narrate an audiobook, I would, to quote Bricky, I'd cream my joints.
Like the 3, kind of 4 that I have the most investment in right now, if y'all are familiar with it, is in no particular order. The Nachmund Wars, I really love that one.
The Nachmund Wars? Oh, I'm trying to remember which ones those are. It's on the tip of my brain. Which ones are those again?
Calgor pops up with the Ultramarines. He boxes Abaddon or Abaddon, however you want to say it.
Abaddon.
Yeah. Like almost destroys the Vengeful Spirit.
Yeah.
Sorry, we say things properly. Even if the creators of the game choose to say the things wrong.
Yeah. I mean, we're Americans. We speak true English, so like,
Yeah.
we're going to ignore the fact that English is named after England.
What is that one unit? The one with the police, and they were just like, yeah, this is how they're pronounced. And we're like,
Oh, yeah.
We're like,
The
no, it's not.
Arbites.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, yes, the Adeptus are beaties. And we all looked at each other. We were like, so that didn't happen. They're Arbites. Moving on.
But yeah, like I said, Demunculaba, which if you haven't read Demunculaba, look into it, but just...
Don't.
It's a little actually not a little, it's very fucked up.
Yeah. No. If you don't know what that is, save yourself, you
Bless
sweet
you.
summer child. It's grim dark lore on. It's very much kind of grim derp. At the time that it was written, they were going for this really edgy approach, and like it fit there. Nowadays, it's just like that's too much.
Yeah, no, it really is in some aspects.
That's adorable.
That is really nice.
I know.
So Demunculaba, the Nachmund Wars, Octarius? I can't pronounce it.
The Warzone.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's Octarius.
I think it's Octarius.
Warzone Octarius, I think. But yeah, they had a whole series of booklets that they released about it.
Yeah. And
I
the
remember
most
that
recent one, Siege of Rax. I just started listening to his first video on Siege of Rax. Really liking it so
Nice.
far. And he uploaded a video recently, and I was like, is it Siege of Rax Part 2? And it wasn't. And I was like, God damn it, Luton, why?
Does Luton have a video of the Bad Dab Wars?
Probably.
The Bad Dab War?
I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Or
Yeah.
if it's on his list, to say
Yeah.
the truth.
Because that is probably one of my favorite 40K things is the Bad Dab War.
Yeah.
And then, like, the first game I got into that was 40K was Space Marine 1. Sean told me about it, and I bought that when I first got my computer, played it, never got to beat it. And then Space Marine 2 came out.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
That shit's like crack.
Yeah, no, it fucking is. Space Marine 2, if you haven't played Space Marine 2, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, shame on you.
Okay, but like
Third of all,
if you have
shame on you.
if you have to choose between paying rent and playing Space Marine 2,
Also fair.
please pay your rent.
Yeah, pay your rent.
But also you can afford to eat ramen for a couple days. I
Right.
promise.
or just drink water.
or a month. That's fine.
But no, Space Marine 2 is great.
Yeah, and honestly, realistically, even if you don't like 40K as a setting, there's kind of a little bit for there is some backup words. But I can talk. I
Jesus
promise.
Christ, I think we found someone worse than you, Mitchell.
I just had a whole ass breakdown. Even if you don't like 40K as a setting, there is something in there for everyone.
Yeah.
In some capacity.
Well, even if they're just not a fan of like the extreme grim darkness, that's where Age of Sigmar comes in, because there's a lot more hope in Age of Sigmar than it is 40K. 40K is
40K is very much about a galaxy in decline.
Yeah. Well, Age of Sigmar is about trying to reclaim what is lost.
Yeah. And I think I was thinking about this a couple days ago. I think one semi-big turnoff for some people trying to get into 40K, not only is there 36 years worth of lore there, but what is it? So 40K is more like universal scale in terms of everything that happens in it. I mean, you have isolated things that happen here and there, but the majority of it is galaxy-wide implications or potential ramifications if something fails.
Yeah.
Whereas like Age of Sigmar and Fantasy, it's more
personal.
Yeah, it's more personal, and people can kind of connect to it a little more. So that's why I love 40K, but I'm definitely starting to appreciate the more personable value of Age of Sigmar and Fantasy, because all of my lore from Age of Sigmar and fucking Fantasy comes from Total War so far, and a little bit of
so no Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, and a little bit of like discussion that Phil and Jacob will have like while we're playing. They're like, "Oh yeah, Matt, did you know about this, this, and this?" And I'm like, "Oh no, that's pretty fucking cool."
Yeah. So
Because I don't play video games with anybody.
Well, that's because you're a real boy with a real boy job. You have responsibilities.
I work 8 to 5 every day, and then I come home and I take a nap.
But yeah, no, so I'm gonna ask you a question just more in general.
Sure.
Do you prefer more sci-fi or fantasy settings? You're allowed to say that you like both.
I do like both. But I think if I had to ultimately pick which one that I like more, just because it takes, in my opinion, more skill to do, is more fantasy settings. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like...
Because in kind of a sci-fi setting, it's like, okay, we're doing hard sci-fi, so, like, physics. It's like, oh, cool. What's your magic building around physics? Fucking physics. Look at the last 300, 400, 500 years. Like, boom, go. Okay, cool. People have already done all this shit. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, hey, I want to have a faster than light travel system. Cool. That shit hasn't been invented yet, so we just go, as one of my instructors like to say, it's PFM, pure freaking magic.
Stop at the goddamn window. What the hell?
Ambulance outside in case anybody heard that.
I think it's my localist homeless man, but he's like the nicest homeless man. He literally talks to nobody. He's the cleanest guy ever. For a homeless man, that man is clean.
I respect it.
It's honestly very impressive because he never leaves a speck of trash where he's like sits.
Respectable. But anyway, moving on. Because that's one thing. So I've been reading a lot of science fiction recently, and that's one thing I definitely have noticed is that in science fiction, to a certain extent, if you're not trying to build all of this, like, lore and whatnot around it, it's a lot easier to focus in on the character relations. So one of the big subgenres of science fiction that I read is military science fiction.
Yeah.
That stuff, love that shit. Cannot get enough. It's like my own personal crack. But recently I've been reading a series where it's supposed to be about... so the series is called The Lost Fleet, and it's about ships fighting in space, right? Mm-hmm. It's like fleets of warships in space fighting against each other, and the physics that they rely on is like, cool, these ships are traveling at a significant percentage the speed of light. Mm-hmm. So what are their primary weapons? Well, their primary weapons are missiles.
Yeah.
Lasers, which, fair.
Yeah.
And then literal fucking grape shot. It's literally ball bearings that they just blast in front of them in a cone.
Yeah.
Because when you're traveling at 2% the speed of light, or no, sorry, not 2%, at 20% the speed of light, that shit carries a lot of energy.
Yeah, and there's like nothing you can do to stop it, nothing you can do to protect yourself against it. And
because it's literally a shotgun of ball bearings.
It's going through you and the planet behind you.
Exactly. And so one thing that I really appreciate about that is it's allowed the author to really focus in on how his characters behave.
Yeah.
And it's allowed him to build up a lot more of the political intrigue.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I definitely respect about fantasy authors is often fantasy authors, they have to create well, the other big thing about science fiction is generally it's set sometime in the future.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to get away with saying, what's the morals of your characters? It's our common day morals. They haven't really evolved that much.
Yeah.
It's fine. In fantasy, if you want to create a really, truly well-rounded environment, not only do you have to create nations with believable histories, you have to also create believable cultures and believable moral codes to go with those cultures.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt. If I'm not interrupted by goddamn
Motorcycles.
Fucking for real, though.
God damn. I generally prefer fantasy because it's just, although fantasy can be a lot more grimdark for some reason, it's just so much more cozy to me.
Yeah.
Like, Daniel Green did a video not that long ago, and it was describing what your favorite author says about you, and it was Terry Brooks, and it was because, yeah, this is fantasy at its height. This is what fantasy is.
Yeah.
But you like him because it's cozy. And it's not because it is a cozy fantasy. It's because it's familiar. And me, as a person,
Terry Brooks is sort of Shannara, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Although a lot of fantasy can have a lot of different systems, and that's why I love Brandon Sanderson, which I'm almost done with The Hero of Ages.
Yay.
It feels so familiar, and for me it's just so much easier to read and get along with.
And that is one thing that I've definitely noticed about science fiction is that in science fiction, oftentimes the scale of it is much bigger, just like how you were talking about with 40K, Matthew. The scale of it is so much bigger. Everything has such large implications. In fantasy, it feels like authors are a lot more comfortable with sitting down and going, so what are the worldwide ramifications of what your character is doing? Not really that much. Like, they're okay with saying, hey, we're going to go on this quest. Everybody's very supportive of this quest, but what are the long-term implications of this quest? Well, you've defeated this one villain and this one nation who was a bad guy. And, like, the entire world is grateful, but ultimately speaking, it's the struggle of half a dozen main characters, so to speak. We're not going to talk about Robert Jordan and the Wheel of Time. That is a masterclass in how to make literally 2,000 different characters, all of whom play an important part in some capacity. But we're not going to talk about him because holy crap, is he a masterclass in that? And that is not the norm.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at Lord of the Rings. Literally the fantasy, the modern fantasy.
Difficult to read.
It is.
Oh my god!
But really, it boils down to half a dozen characters all contributing together to one goal, and that's it.
It's a lot easier to follow.
Yeah.
And it's not me saying that I have a low reading level, because I am a true idiot. But it's, as I put it, I don't want to take the equivalent of a college class to just understand what's going on with the story.
Yeah, that much I definitely do agree with, because if you don't read Lord of the Rings and you just jump straight into the movies, they're gonna rattle off a bunch of things like terms, and when Aragorn starts speaking Elvish, you're like, what the fuck? Versus, I think Phil mentioned this last time when we kind of talked about it. It's like in 40K, Adeptus Astartes. Okay, this is a military organization. Or ecclesiarchy. Okay, that kind of sounds like a religious organization, something like that. It's a lot easier to understand sci-fi terminology, mostly until they start getting into how light speed travel works and shit like that.
Yeah.
So there's definitely pros and cons to getting into both, but if I had to pick one to be heavily invested in, it would definitely still be 40K. But I can, like I said, appreciate the more personable approach to like Age of Sigmar or Lord of the
and
Rings.
one thing I
like
will
that.
say about Games Workshop books are not a good representation of how a lot of authors will approach their naming schemes.
Yeah.
Because Games Workshop is looking to copyright everything.
Oh, yeah,
That's what they want to do. Is
100%.
copyright. But there was a series that I read not too long ago. Or it was one book from a series. It was called A Fate Inked in Blood. And it's based loosely off of Norse mythology.
Oh, yeah, I think you've talked about this.
And, it was one of those books I read for Jess's book club. And one thing I really appreciated about it...
Before we go way too deep into this, we already have had our ramble episode, so I don't know how much we're rambling.
That is very fair. I'll keep it short. One thing I appreciate about it was just that, like, if you have any kind of passing knowledge of Norse mythology...
Yeah.
Or if you do a little more reading into it, you can very quickly understand it.
Yeah.
And anything that isn't very apparent, the author's very good at using context clues, kind of clue you in on it, or give you an explanation that makes sense in terms of the story that they're telling.
Yeah.
But yes, looping back around, because you're absolutely right, we have gone on a bit of a tangent here. But I do think it is valuable to know kind of how you see, Matthew, how you see the worlds that we're discussing.
Yeah. No, I got you.
So having said that, you talked about some of the pros that you see in Age of Sigmar and how personal it can be in some of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any, things you've read online or in stories or that myself, Jacob, or Mitchell have talked about that you have any like glaring questions that you want answered right now?
I guess I'll just bring it up, and if there's anything y'all can think of to like mention about it. I don't remember the Slayer's name, but he
Gotrek.
There we go. Yeah, yeah. There we go. Thank you.
The fucking Slayer.
Yeah, the Slayer. My favorite story that I think Circe had told me about him was he like posted up to a lava T-Rex or something like that to fight it and kill it, but he was like so extravagant and like stepping up to him that the T-Rex was like, nah. I'm gonna just go.
That happened, yeah.
Didn't he end up like taming it as well at some point? Or am I thinking of something else?
Oh God! Of course, you'd ask the one question that Jacob would know right off the top of his head, and that Mitchell and I.
That is one of Jacob's favorite characters.
Yeah,
Gotrek. I can see
why.
Yeah, Gotrek is his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I can see why.
But I don't think he tamed it.
Mm-hmm.
It was specifically just going like, I'm Macho Man, and I'm too Macho Man for you. You better just walk away.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah. Because that's one thing about Slayers, is Slayers are very much invested, not just in the pursuit of large creatures to slay, but in the conquest of them. So, normally if a Slayer walks up to a creature and he's like, I'm going to fight you, creature, and the creature's like, nope, I'm done, and dips, the Slayer's going to be like,
bruh,
dude, we were gonna do the thing. What are you doing? And then it runs off into the woods, and the Slayer's like,
all right.
well, now it's not worth it.
Yeah. Isn't it also kind of like within like the Slayer culture that it's kind of a good thing to die fighting something that's like
Yes,
a beast or something like
that? Slayer culture very much has kind of like the not necessarily traditional Nordic values, but kind of like if you took everything you think you know about Vikings and then dialed it up, that's kind of what Slayer culture embodies. So whenever a Slayer is killed in battle, if they're just killed by like some random gobbo with a knife covered in poop that stabs them and then he dies of infection, that's very much dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor on your family. But yeah, if a single Slayer goes to stand up against like a classic dragon, and this is a monstrous because one of the, as you know, in Total War Warhammer, there's a unit called Dragon Slayers.
Yeah.
So if they go out and they challenge the dragon and they slay the dragon, that is very much a big deal. And if they die in the conquest of slaying the dragon, then that is kind of seen as like an honorable way to go. Because oftentimes Slayers are disgraced. Yeah. Traditionally speaking. Slayers were actually disgraced dwarves who then took the Slayer vow to basically say, like, I'm going to go kill big creature to redeem myself.
Right.
You want to add anything, Mitchell? You're staring at me
No.
with your loving, beautiful eyes.
I know. I got beautiful gray eyes.
Oh yeah,
And-
definitely.
yeah.
I'm falling straight into it.
Wasn't it also Gotrek that had like died at some point or got snatched by a god?
Oh yeah.
And then like a couple hundred years later or 1,000 years later, he's put back into society and like everyone he knows and like cared about is dead.
No. That's him going from the old world to the Age of Sigmar.
Oh, gotcha.
He walked into the warp
Uh-huh.
to do what was it, Grungy's job?
Didn't he like
think
trick
so,
him
yeah.
into doing it?
Kind of.
Kind of? Okay.
But yeah, just to do
Look,
like
the end times are fucking
to
weird.
become the Doom Slayer. He literally become Doom Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walked into the warp and like, I'm just gonna fight everybody.
Yeah.
And he happened to walk out and went, where am I? Who are you?
Yeah.
What am I?
So he walked into the warp during the end times, right?
Mm-hmm.
He walks out during the Age of Sigmar.
Oh.
So
Oh.
do you know the importance of the different ages in the lore of Age of Sigmar?
I'll be completely honest. Nope.
Okay, so this is a great place to start. So the Age of Sigmar is called that because it's literally referring to a period of time.
Right.
When Sigmar is in ascendancy. So you have 3 primary ages in the lore of Age of Sigmar.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Age of Myth, then you have the Age of Chaos, and then you have the Age of Sigmar. These are literally distinct periods of time.
Okay.
So Age of Myth, that's when the old world was destroyed, and then now the mortal realms.
Yes,
Mortal realms are formed. So these are the distinct worlds that are formed from the different winds of magic.
By the
So
way,
you know how the winds of magic, or the lores of magic that you use in Warhammer Total War?
Yeah.
So each one of the distinct ones, now forms its own world.
fun fact: the worlds are flat.
Like that's an actual thing.
That is a legitimate thing. All the worlds are flat, and the reason why there's day and night is because Ulgu and Hish, not Hish. Is it Hish? Yes, Hish.
Yeah, world of light.
Rotate around each other.
So they're just kind of like just floating and just.
Yeah,
That's actually what's going on?
It is the dumbest cop out I have ever heard. But yeah, that's the official
So
story.
you have the realm of light, and then the realm of shadows, and they just block each other constantly. That's day and night.
Don't tell the flat earthers that.
Yeah, seriously. But anyway,
but there is confirmation that the worlds are flat because in Hish, Arcan literally falls off the edge of the world.
Yeah. No, it is the dumbest cop out. But whatever. We don't talk about that.
And these
Did someone at LVO the year we went ask them about the worlds being flat, and they
we did.
That's right. We did. Oh yeah, no, because I was so fucking exhausted. I just went to sleep, and then you and Jacob went down to the convention.
Actually, I think it was Allie, but yes.
Yeah, and then Allie asked, "Hey, are the worlds flat?" And they like completely copped out on it. They were like, "Well, the people there think they." And it's like, no, the world's a fucking flat, dude.
It's like them saying that like we're never gonna bring back a Primarch unless it's needed in the unless it makes sense.
And now they've brought back fucking 2 of them.
Actually, the words that they said in that that meeting
Yeah.
was all the Primarchs that are not there are dead.
And then they brought back L. Johnson.
Literally the next month.
Yeah.
What
like
the fuck?
they'd been gearing up for their Johnson release, and everybody fucking knew it. And we asked, we were like, "Hey, is a Primarch coming back?" And they were like, "Cop out." We were like, "That's a fucking lie." And then holy shit, like the next month, Johnson, and we were like, "You fucking bitches."
Yeah. I can't wait for them to actually give the Fallen or like what would it be? The redeemed actual models.
Oh yeah, those are gonna be good. So okay, that requires a little more context for you, Matthew. So in Age of Sigmar, demon princes. So demon princes are the same in both AOS and 40k.
Right.
They are mortal people.
That's not what I was talking about. The redeemed, as in you have the Fallen and Dark Angels, Lionel Johnson. Lionel Johnson gives him the good old talking to.
Oh, those redeemed. Yes.
those
Yes. Sorry, no, yes, because there's the redeemed in AOS too, and
Which hella cool though. We can give you a quick lore bit. Go hit him.
I mean, hey, it works for me.
Okay, cool. So which one am I doing? AOS or 40K?
Let's do.
I am familiar with 40K.
Okay,
Fallen, yeah.
hit him with AOS.
Okay, so just real quick to make sure we're talking about the same thing. 40K Fallen, they now become the redeemed if they join Johnson again, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
AOS 40K.
AOS 40K.
AOS redeemed are really cool. Demon Prince, same thing. Mortal, who is blessed by a chaos god and basically becomes a demon, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so during the Realm Wars, technically it's its own kind of sub campaign, but it's during the Realm Wars.
Realm Gate Wars.
Realm Gate Wars. Thank you. This event happens, and remember, Alariel from High Elves.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's still around.
Herself.
She becomes a new god. She becomes basically the goddess of the Wood Elves.
Oh,
is kind of the short and skinny of it.
Gotcha.
She becomes the goddess of life, and she has not been reawakened yet because she's because cycles of life and rebirth and all this jazz. So she's still waking up. Well, Nurgle's like, swiggity swoogity, I'm coming for that booty. And so he sends in a demon prince to go conquer Alariel's realms. Demon Prince shows up. I think that's right. Demon Prince shows up, and they're wrecking house. And so Sigmar sends in one of his storm hosts, which is the largest unit of Stormcast Eternals. Mm-hmm. So they send in a storm host. It's the Night Radiance, isn't it? Knights Radiant, or it's the silver guys.
It's two, because they send in.
Well, initially it's just the one, and then
Hollowed Knights and Astral Templars.
You're right. It is those two. Yeah. So these two guys show up, and they are getting thrashed. Like they are trying their best, but they are getting thrashed.
My two favorite storm hosts, by the way.
Yeah. So they're getting thrashed, and finally they're. So just how in 40K, whenever Gilliman woke up, like they were literally fighting over his coffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically almost the same thing happens.
Oh, shit.
They're basically fighting over Alariel's regeneration pod. Mm-hmm. And at this point, the Hammers of Sigmar's preeminent, like when Sigmar needs shit done, he goes to the Hammers. Right. They are his first storm host. Mm-hmm. They come screaming out of the heavens. Thunder strikes all over the place, and they come screaming out of the heavens. And then comes the Celestant fucking Prime. Literally Sigmar's most powerful Stormcast and his right-hand man.
Oh, shit.
So this is the first time we'd seen him in lore. Actively doing things. At this point, he'd been asleep. Mm-hmm. And then they managed to reclaim Galmaraz, Sigmar's hammer, and give it to him. And he comes screaming out of the heavens, takes one look at the Demon Prince, and goes, fucking perish. And just one-taps this guy. Fucking annihilates him. And as this guy's soul is being rent back into the warp, Sigmar looks over there and goes, I smell pennies, and rips the single shred of goodness left in his soul out and forges a Stormcast out of it. That is the redeemed.
Which it went from now Tornig to Tornis, which Tornis is like the goodest boy ever.
Like literally, you're talking about one of Sigmar's most faithful apostles.
And, like, if you actually read, God, why is there so many sirens outside?
Because it's Austin.
Yeah, fair point. If you read, Hollowed Knights, Nurgle's Garden, or Plague Garden, or something like that.
It's something like that.
Tornis is in there, and he has this like internal struggle that's like who he once was, and he's going through the realm of Nurgle, and he kind of comes to this conclusion: is like, no, I was once a good person, and I am still that good person. I was just corrupted by Nurgle himself.
Yeah, the big thing about the redeemed is if they can completely overcome their past corruption, then like literally they become impervious to the corruption of the chaos god that they once served.
Yeah.
That's what makes the redeemed so terrifying.
By the way,
damn.
Yeah, no, the chaos gods fucking hate the redeemed. They have it like they have a constant hit list out for these guys. But the big issue with the redeemed is that because they were once corrupted, if the storm host they are serving with ever finds out about that, they're often shunned because of it.
Actually, not in the Hollowed Knights.
Yeah, the Hollowed Knights are the big exception. Because
Yeah.
the Hollowed Knights are like, fuck it, we ball.
Like, you serve Sigmar, you Gucci, son.
But yeah, I think in the new lore, technically, what's her name? Maeve Black Talon? I think in the new lore, she's technically a redeemed as well.
Maybe I am not.
But that's something from Warhammer Plus, and I'm not sure on that one.
Not entirely sure. Fun fact. In that book that I just dated, Plague Garden, Hollow Knight's Plague Garden. That's what it is. They actually hit Nurgle. Like, that is a big difference between 40k and Age of Sigmar. You can physically hit the gods.
Kind of like how Scarbrand did with Khorne.
No, he literally threw. I forget what he threw. It may have just been a hammer. It could have been Sigmar's Purifying Light. I think it would have been way cooler if it is Sigmar's.
Are you talking about the Celestant Prime?
No, I'm talking about one of the Hollowed Knights, and I think it might have been Gardas Steelheart that did it.
If it was going to be anyone.
And he just kind of threw something down a well.
I think it was one of his blessed weapons.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And he hit Nurgle, and Nurgle screamed out in pain.
Yeah, so that's kind of the big thing that is.
What the fuck?
It's an academic debate in the lore as to whether or not the Stormcast are actually technically demons of Sigmar, because they are mortal souls reforged, but they are reforged with Sigmar's power.
And
which technically qualifies them to be something along the lines of a demon prince.
Yeah, because that's essentially how demon princes are forged, a chunk of the respective god's
and that's
soul.
why the storm hosts are so obscenely powerful.
Yeah, there are stories, because like you have like the sons of Behemoth, which are just giants, and these things are monstrously tall. Like, so you have. I like to think the models are actually fairly scaled to each other. So you have a Stormcast about that tall, and you
Jesus.
which
so these are snake ladies. Stormcast are a little taller than that,
and then the giants are roughly that tall.
Yeah,
comparatively.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
I love it.
So a
literally
Stormcast,
an entire army of giants can literally be 4 dudes.
A Stormcast literally got upset with herself about her dilemma of just being a Stormcast, and there was also it was like the Burning Skies of Be'lakor, which the souls weren't being returned to Sigmar, so like when a Stormcast died, it was a true death to them. And she got so angry, she literally ran into like the shin of this giant and knocked it down.
What the fuck?
Just by running into it.
Yeah. Stormcast are obscenely powerful and strong.
And a lot of people...
And they are basically fueled by rage.
And I don't think a lot of people understand, like, they are probably... In my mind, they are stronger than a Space Marine. The Space Marine has power armor. The Stormcasts are doing all of this in not powered armor.
That's
because the armor that the Stormcast wear, it is imbued with runes and things like that. A lot of those are just for protection and for them to be able to move between the realms easily from their thunder strikes.
Yeah.
And they do kind of enhance their abilities to a certain extent, but those are more like the magical ones. But yeah, the armor itself doesn't actually provide that much of a boost to their physical capabilities. So most of the feats that you hear them do, that's basically all them.
And every once in a while, there are stories about like a Stormcast just losing their mind and just slaughtering an entire village.
Yeah. But you know, we were talking about the ages though. So there's the Age of Myth, and that's when all the gods are waking up.
This is all the gods, not just chaos.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is when Sigmar first lands in the mortal realms. This is when Nagash conquers all of the other gods of death and becomes the god of death. Gorka Morka wakes up and starts going on rampages.
So really,
Teclis and Tyrion.
You have 3 big G gods. The rest are lower G gods. Your big 3G gods that got ascended were Nagash, Sigmar, and Gorka Morka.
Yeah, of the good gods. We're not talking about chaos yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
With chaos, there's 4 big gods and 1 little god.
That being Nagash, right?
No.
Oh, who's
no chaos? The fucking the rat god.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the whole point of the end times in fantasy is that the rats manage to basically manifest their own god.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So technically he does exist, and he is around.
Much
but
to talk about when it comes to religion in 40K, but that can relate to wait till after the podcast.
Exactly. So and the rat god's a little weird because technically he is a god of chaos, but the rats are considered a faction of destruction.
Yeah.
So technically he's a god of destruction, but really he's more of a chaos. It gets weird. But generally speaking, at least whenever we talk about the rat god, we lump him in with chaos.
Because
that's fair.
what Games Workshop does, is lumping them with chaos.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
At least at first they did. I don't know if they technically still do.
They still do, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's if you go to the chaos subsection, it's Skaven.
Gotcha. So, that's the Age of Myth. All that's happening. At this point in time, Nagash is actually a good guy. He's working with Sigmar. The undead are building villages and cities for the people of Sigmar to live in. Mm-hmm. Things are going pretty good. It's also during this time that Teclis, Tyrion, Malekith?
Malarian?
Yeah. Whatever the other elven god is that I'm forgetting.
Because we always go hashtag Malekith. It's Malarian.
Yes,
Malarion.
that's right. Malarian. So Malekith from Fantasy,
Yeah.
he merges with his demon horse and becomes Malarian.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's wild. But that's when Malarian, Teclis, Tyrion go to Slaanesh. They drag out fucking what's her tits, Marathi, and then all 4 of them together rip all the elven souls out of Slaanesh.
Oh yeah, I remember.
That's when then they imprison Slaanesh. So this happens during this time. So Slaanesh has basically been locked up ever since the dawn of time, effectively, for Age of Sigmar. Mm-hmm. And everything's going pretty good for a while.
Look at these bunch of nerds.
So everything goes good for a while. Then Nagash starts feeling undervalued. Gorka Morka wants to go rage and do shit. And basically the pantheon of gods starts to fall apart. At this time, Chaos starts going, ooh, hey, wait a minute. There's life over here. We like corrupting life.
Yeah.
We're going to go fuck with those guys. And also around this time, the Skaven finally pop out of their pocket dimension and start creating gnaw holes to all the different mortal realms.
Fucking Skaven.
So this is when everything starts to go wrong.
Right.
So then you hit what's called the Age of Chaos. The Age of Chaos is when the Chaos Gods really start making themselves known. The Skaven are everywhere. They are fucking shit up for everyone, and the Chaos Gods are making use of that. And ultimately, this climaxes with what's called the Gore Tide. So Khorne basically wins. So Archaon comes screaming out of the warp with all of his demonic and mortal hosts and starts just demolishing everything. There's this really big battle called the Battle of Burning Skies where Archaon actually beats Sigmar. And because what it is he tricks Sigmar into throwing his hammer into the warp.
Oh, shit.
That's the reason why the Celestin Prime's going to be awake and for the longest period of time. And that's when there's this gigantic thing in the very beginning about a campaign to go get the actual Gall Maraz, because it's still Gall Maraz that was wielded by Carlos Franz.
Yeah, also, that's all the same hammer.
That's all the same hammer. Also, we're all pretty sure that the Celestin Prime is Carl Franz.
Yeah.
We, as in we here at Lorecast Eternal, are pretty sure that Sigmar specifically saved Carl Franz's soul, specifically to make use of it later. And then he started his Stormcast project and stuck Carl Franz's soul into the Celestin Prime.
Because, remember, during End Times, he was possessing Carl Franz's body.
Right.
So, like, it only makes sense at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense. Plus, Carl Franz kind of was innately just kind of a G, wouldn't he?
Kind of. He was one of the greatest emperors to ever live.
Right.
So, like, it absolutely makes sense.
Okay. Now,
anyway.
I can only imagine, like, if it was only one other person from Old World, it'd be Magnus the Pious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or possibly fucking Golden Boy.
No, because Beagle actually has a character. I forget what his name is.
I keep forgetting that he actually does have a character, but yes, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So does Cetra.
Oh.
And so many people are pissed about that.
Cetra does not serve. Cetra serving the guy. Anyway, so Khorne basically wins. And I'm going to forget the name of the warlord who leads his forces, but literally they sweep across all of the mortal realms except for...
Khan? Is it Khan? Khan?
Who, the warlord?
Yeah.
It starts with a G. Anyway, he's
never
got
mind.
a model. They sweep across all of the mortal realms except for the realm of Sigmar, which is Azir, and one other, I think. Anyway, point is, basically they conquer all of the mortal realms. They do this.
I don't think they ever went to Hish.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Anyway, they conquer basically all of the mortal realms, get to the far side of the mortal realms, and go, what do we do now? Fuck it, let's do it again. And they turn around and do the exact same thing all over again, and that's called the Gortide.
What the fuck?
So this ultimately culminates in basically a few hundred years of just utter massacre and slaughter.
It's like about a good 500 years.
Yeah, 200 to 500
Jesus
years.
Christ.
So that is one really good thing about Age of Sigmar. All of their lore writing, they never reference dates. They only ever say, this happened in the past, or this happened during this age, or this happened after this other event. Because that's one big thing that they lock themselves in on 40K, is they lock themselves in on using dates. And they didn't, at the time, their lore management wasn't as good. And so there are times where you'll have two characters in the same place, or two characters in different places at the same time. I said two characters. A singular character. A singular character will allegedly be at two different places, like across the galaxy at the same time.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's not how that works. So, oh, are you looking up the model?
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I have not looked at the new Age of Sigmar models in a hot minute. That's hot!
Yeah, are those cruel boys?
No, those are Gabos.
Oh yeah, the Git Mob.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I have not seen any of this. Blades of Corn. Who am I looking for?
Nope, that's Aspiring.
Nope, I'm looking for him having a dog.
A dog.
Oh yeah, he does have a bloodhound or...
That's showing shirt 32 of 32. Huh.
Maybe they... Wait, go down a little bit. A little more. Okay, that's an Exalted Deathbringer.
You continue, I'll find this.
Slaughter Priest. Maybe they discontinued the model?
That would make no sense.
It really wouldn't.
Continue with your story.
Anyway.
I'll find this.
So... Oh! Are you looking at demons or are you looking at mortals?
No,
They might have separated the two.
No, they're. I'm looking at demons and mortals.
Huh. Anyway, so ultimately, this culminates in the Gortide. That happens, and there's a reign of terror for several hundred years. So during this time period, Sigmar had shut the gates to Azir. Nobody could get in. And all this horrible shit had happened. People have been like, Sigmar abandoned us. You know, how could he do that? Anyway. Well, finally, the realm gates open.
Oh, no.
And coming screaming out of the sky are these massive thunderstorms. Like no one had seen before. and these massive bolts of lightning just start striking the ground everywhere. And from these bolts of lightning stride these golden warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And here so enters the Stormcast Eternals, and so begins the Age of Sigmar.
Oh.
Can you only get him in the start collecting?
I guess so. Oh, yeah, that's him right there.
Right here.
What is that guy's name?
What?
I think
It should be in the description.
I think it was like Goreblade or something. Oh, a Goreblade. Never mind.
Read more, maybe? Oh, yeah, it just lists him as a Lord of Corn.
Mighty Lord of Corn. Did they get rid of him?
They might have.
What?
And go to Lexicanum and look up the Gortide.
Okay, yeah. Continue. All right.
Anyway, so yeah, and so there's this great speech in I think it's in like all of the core rule books that talks about the beginning of the Age of Sigmar, and it's this great quote talking about like, so you know the infamous speech about the Emperor when it comes to the Space Marines is like, and they shall be clad in finest armor, and they shall know no fear.
Yeah.
So
Corvus Cole.
Corvus Cole. That's right.
Corgus.
Corgus. Yes.
Yeah.
Corgus Cole. So there's this great line in there, and it's in one of our earliest episodes too that I read it, and it's always stuck with me. I can't remember it now. But it talks about how when the Stormcast first appeared and how Sigmar was like, and now I unleash my wrath upon the mortal realms.
Yeah.
And it is so hot. And yeah, no, I absolutely adore that text block in the core rulebook. And it's basically just talking about how Sigmar had spent the last 500 years building the perfect army to be his instrument of wrath and revenge against the Chaos Gods.
Yeah. But also understand, 85% of humanity still lives underneath Chaos's reign.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Azir was the only realm to basically go unmolested by Chaos.
Maybe Hish as well,
Damn.
but it wasn't as much.
Yeah, but also not many humans live in Hish. That's mostly elves.
Yeah.
So basically, Chaos won, essentially.
Yeah, Chaos basically won, except that Sigmar was sitting in Azir like, I'm gonna get you, bitch.
Yep.
And so Sigmar worked with the Dwarven god.
So that was that was the Age of Myth, the Age of Chaos.
And now we're in the Age of Sigmar.
That was the start of the Age of Sigmar, and that start of the Age of Sigmar was called the Realm Gate Wars.
Okay.
Because that's when everybody's fighting over these things called the Realm Gates, which are basically the portals to travel between different mortal realms.
Mm-hmm.
So we've mentioned a couple. There's Hish, Azir, Olgu, Shimon. I'm forgetting the gashes. Shaiish, thank you. And a few more. Basically, they represent the 8 primary winds of magic.
Right.
Which, there is a nice theory that I like to throw out, is that the realms that the Chaos Gods live in, there's evidence that shows that they're a mixture of these winds of magic. Because with Nurgle, when you're reading through the book, you have things of reminiscences of the
Previous life,
which not only does it have hints of the world of Shaiish, but also hints of the world of Gur.
So one thing to note about this is that if you look at the...
Or Gur and whatever life. Whatever.
Anyway, if you look at, Warhammer Fantasy, they talk about how, they have the magic of life, the magic of death, the magic of the heavens and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you really start to look into it, and they talk about all these little minor branches of magic. So we actually have a theory that every one of those minor winds of magic actually did create another minor realm.
Huh.
Because a lot of those little minor branches of magic or lores of magic are actually mixtures.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, what is his name? I can't remember it. Golden face guy.
Balthazar Gelt.
Balthazar Gelt. He created, his own lore of magic.
No, he had the lore of metal.
I thought he made his own little, spin-off of that.
That's Shimon.
Yeah, no, I know he did the lore of Metal. I for whatever reason, I thought he had his own little lore.
I don't know. I thought he was just really proficient in the lore of Metal.
That might have been what it is. But like you have some of the magics that you read about in fantasy is they're kind of like mixtures, and so it's an interesting little thought experiment. There's nothing confirmed by Games Workshop, just a lot of little like points and nudges and like wink winks.
By the way, Red Wings won.
Nice. Oh wait, we've been at this for a while.
Yeah, we've been sitting here for at least 2 or 3 hours now.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's basically the very rough history up until the start of the Age of Sigmar.
Gotcha.
Realmgate War has happened. Then as part of this crusade goes on to recover Galmaraz. That was a big deal back in first edition. So we'll talk about different big wars that occur. Each one represents a different edition of the book. Mm-hmm. So right now we're in the Skaventide.
We're in 4th edition.
Yeah, which
okay, so here's like the major events. You have first edition, which is Realmgate Wars. This is what started it off. And then they didn't have this plan to end first edition, which it just kind of went into the Soul Wars, which is Nagash got a whole lot of power and became a big G. Then at the end of Soul...
Well, the other big thing about Soul Wars is that's when we're introduced to the...
Endless spells.
Yeah, to the endless spells, but the faction, the Ghost faction. God, I'm not on point tonight. Thank you. Night Haunt.
It was Night Haunt and...
Oziark, right?
Oziark. And I think they also introduced Soulblight Gravelords at the end of it.
That would make sense.
So...
But yeah, each one of these big wars usually comes with a big model line, either release or revamping.
Mm-hmm. And then you have at the end of 2.0, because they don't really say second edition. They go 2.0, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. We're right now on 4.0. Mm-hmm. At the end of 2.0, you had Broken Realms, and this is the entire idea of
the Necroquake.
No, it's what ended the Necroquake, but at the same time awoken Alariel with the Ritual of Life, and then awoken Kragnos as well. But the Ritual of Life led into the Era of the Beast, which was 3.0. Yeah. And at the end of 3.0, the biggest thing was you had the Dawnbringer Crusades, which was the cities of Sigmar were trying to go back and reclaim areas within these realms.
Because remember, we said about 85% of humanity still lives under the reign of chaos.
Yeah.
So the whole Dawnbringer Crusade was basically the mortals of Azir finally going, all right, the Golden Boys led the way. Now we're coming too.
We are going to go out and we're going to make our own cities, and we're going to manifest destiny our way through this.
Yeah, no, basically,
like we got the power of God and anime on our side.
Basically,
and then with that,
the Dawnbringer Crusades also introduced the revamping for the Cities of Sigmar model line.
Yeah. Okay. And there was a few other models that came in, but at the end of the Dawnbringer Crusades, I really need to read into them because I haven't really had a chance to read into them. But that's
Skaventide.
We get into the Skaventide, and Skaventide is what is 4.0 at the moment.
That's when the Skaven are like, all right, we're done fucking around and doing wacky shit. We're coming for the big nugget now.
Yeah. And
we want all the Warpstone.
I think that's something I really appreciate about Age of Sigmar that I really haven't come to the conclusion to until just now, is that it is so just... Every single edition is so story-driven, and it feels like nothing is going to be galactic ending or world or realm ending. Mm-hmm. It is just people having their plans and see if their plans come to fruition, but you can always fight back against those plans even if they succeed. Look, while you're going to 40k, it is just the Tyranids are invading. If we don't stop them, the entire galaxy
That was
dies.
Always my biggest issue with some of the like war zones that they would release in 40k was they were like, oh yeah, and here's this war zone that's like this really interesting story going on, and like to a certain extent it's kind of like, okay, that's cool, but like
as he quickly reads a gigantic paragraph of text.
Is that the speech you were talking about? Similar to what the Emperor says? Is that it? Okay. I've been looking for that for like 10 minutes now. I was curious.
I'm a little disappointed in you that you used ChatGPT to go find it, but
I could not find it.
Yeah. But no,
I had the rule book right behind you.
Oh, actually, yeah. We could probably just quote the rule book directly if we wanted to.
Go back a couple of pages, and I think you'll find the Age of Sigmar. Or is it on the Age of Sigmar?
Yeah, you're on the Realm Gate Wars right now.
Oh.
But usually it's because it's the Battle for the Brimstone Peninsula is the first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 500 long years of oppression. So the Age of Chaos reigned for 500 years across the mortal realms. Yeah, here we go. Then, when even the realms themselves were crumbling, the clouds of darkness were split asunder by a tempest of heavenly light. With a resounding boom that left demons and cursed mortals reeling, Sigmar's Stormcast Eternal struck, and a new era of hope began.
I think that passage was better in the second edition book.
Yeah.
Or the third edition.
Second or third.
Yeah.
Whichever one it was I was quoting at the time. Also, there's more here that I could read, but that's not really the point right now.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll afterwards, we'll sit down and we'll go through it. Because, especially in the earlier editions when the Realm Gate Wars were still such a huge deal. Mm-hmm. Like, they fucking brought out the big guns in their writing department for it. Oh, my God. They made it. They made it nutty.
When this series, when Age of Sigmar originally came out, the joke was called, it was the Age of Reynolds. Because it was Josh Reynolds wrote majority of the books, and he's not a bad author.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's actually a really decent author, and he's made one of my favorite books, which is Gloomspite, which is just a book that really gives a good experience of the apocalypse of what the Gloomspite gets really brings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically the first 5 years of lore in Age of Sigmar were dominated by Josh Reynolds. He basically laid the groundwork for almost everyone in terms of lore, and he did a great job at it. Not so much in the overarching lore, but in the more like personal stories that were created, the minutia, the detail, and it was phenomenal.
I gotta get Gloomspite back from CRC.
Yeah. But anyway, where were we? Yes, Skaventide.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically the premise of this 4th edition, again, I haven't had a chance to really look into it either. I've been studying a lot. Is going to be the Skaven. Skaven, big deal, world ending. They need to fight, and now they're coming back with bigger and better weapons.
Right.
And they're able to like really corrupt Stormcast. So that's what's going to make them a big deal. Skaven themselves, kind of bitch made. But when they've got a gun that can like perma kill a Stormcast at a mile out, like. That's a little more important.
So, did we ever tell you about what is his name?
Who are you thinking of?
Most character Sigmar literally created him in his own image. Bear Eater. He's a Astral Templar.
Oh, that's your wheelhouse, my guy. You know me, I'm Hammers of Sigmar all day, every day. Golden Boys. For life.
But
I really hope that's not like a reference to an actual gang. That'd be horrible.
His last name is Bear Eater. And he is literally the embodiment of what Sigmar was before Sigmar became a god.
Huh.
Oh, yeah. I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
But, so, Ikit is still a thing in this world.
Fucking Ikit.
Yeah. Oh, no. That's the funny thing. Ikit is so fucking old and has learned so many things. He's forgotten that he's Ikit. He knows that he's from the world that was, which is the old world. That's the new name for the old world of fantasy.
Helmakar.
Yes.
Helmakar Bear Eater.
But yeah, like, he's literally so old, he doesn't remember how old he is.
What the fuck?
And
but
he
the gods remember this one.
Yeah, they remember Ikit. They fucking know Ikit.
But Ikit literally took away Helmakar's ability to be reforged.
What the fuck?
So, real quick,
rats.
reforging is the process by which when a Stormcast die, they are given a new body.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So, Ikit, I forget his exact new name, is now...
He's fucking Ikit, man.
It's Ikit is immortal because he dies and then he's like shot to some random part of the world. Just as a Stormcast would.
Ikit is so powerful and knowledgeable, he's literally created his own pocket dimension. That's in the realm of abilities of like actual gods. And he's just like, oh, look, I did the thing. And everybody's like, what the fuck are you? And he's like, I am the oldest rat alive, bitch.
If I was to recommend you to listen to an audiobook or to read your first Age of Sigmar book, I would highly recommend it to be Helmikar Bear Eater, because it is just a good book. And it is so fun because it is just this man over boasting his ability to tell a story. Because that's
I'll take that.
And it's you listening to it, you're just like, this man has character. And that's one of my favorite things about Stormcast Eternals, is because they truly have character. This man is the embodiment of just pride.
That's another big thing that you'll see is different between Stormcast and Space Marines, is especially in the writing of Space Marines right before we got Gilliman back, is a lot of Space Marines started to feel kind of the same. Because to a certain extent, like, Space Marine is Space Marine, and like they do the thing, and there were some characters that were very much unique.
And it's even worse when it comes to the Ultramarines, because the Ultramarines were just like, I'm the best of the best, sir.
Yeah, which who was it that? Anyway, that was a large complaint about Space Marines. Is they all kind of feel the same, which is why I tend to really enjoy 30K stories, because in 30K stories they very much
there's a lot more individuality of 30K Space Marines.
Yeah, because
even I've kind of noticed that.
Yeah, because in 30K you're still dealing with the legions.
Yeah.
So at that point you have 20-ish more or less distinct character tropes that you can build into your legions. So, you know, the Imperial Fists, they're very serious and very sturdy, and like that's them. But in there, you're allowed to really explore the nuances of that. Same thing with the Ultramarines. Ultramarines are very level-headed, but you can have Ultramarines that are a little more jovial. You can have Ultramarines that are a little more serious and things like that play off of each other. In 40K lore, every chapter tries to be unique in its own way. Yeah. At which point, it kind of waters down the ability to make each individual character unique. Yeah. Now that we have the re-inclusion of the Primaris Marines, you're able to start playing with that a little more. That's kind of how they managed to work themselves out of that, is they can start making the Primaris Marines a little more interesting, because the first wave of Primaris were actually from the age of the Horus Heresy. Yeah. So they can kind of play with that a little bit. But in Age of Sigmar, the storm hosts that are named, there's only about 20 of them. Like, named storm hosts. Because storm hosts are supposed to be...
20 named ones. Gotcha.
Storm hosts are supposed to be massive. Like, they do not follow the 1,000 Battle Brother rule at all. They are as big as they need to be in order to get the job done. Right. And so you are very much able to say, like, hey, this is how I want my Ultramarine... Or, not Ultramarines. This is how I want my storm host to behave. And even then, you're able to really work in some nuance as well, because one of the one of the divisions inside of a storm host is called the Sacrosanct Chamber. The Sacrosanct Chamber, for a long time, they didn't actually leave Azir. The whole point of a storm host's Sacrosanct Chamber was to stay in Azir and oversee the reforging process of their individual storm hosts. Like, that was kind of their point. And so you could very much have Sacrosanct Chambers that interacted with each other, talked to each other, and you're now able to create these individual little subcultures inside of each storm host.
So each Stormhost refers to a group of...
It is the largest military organization for Stormcast.
Okay.
So Hammers of Sigmar, Astral Templars, Hallowed Knights, those are Stormhosts.
Kind of like chapters, if you will, a little bit.
More like legions.
Legions, okay.
More like the OG traditional legions.
Gotcha, okay.
And again, each one of these Stormcasts are unique because the whole point of a Stormcast is that they took a mortal soul and turned it into a Stormcast. And it is fairly common for Stormcasts to remember, especially if they're freshly forged, to remember their mortal lives.
Do you really want to go into philosophy right here? Because I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm mostly just talking about how they can be emotionally unique. Because you can have a Hammer of Sigmar that's from Shimon that has one very specific way of thinking. And then you can have another Hammer of Sigmar that's from Olgu.
Yeah. So my philosophy thing here was going to be the way that Age of Sigmar deals with its human souls, kind of shows a predetermination of what your personality is going to be like, determined on your soul.
Yeah.
And so it's more of like a predetermined, almost destiny at that point. Mm-hmm. Because when you die and you get reforged, although you lose a lot of your memories, and your memories are kind of what's determined to be what your personality is, what's going to be your experiences, those Stormcasts are still very similar to what they were like when they were alive. So that kind of gives this idea that the way that Age of Sigmar deals with your soul is what determines your personality, and your soul is who you are, not just the body that you live in.
And that is very much shown in the process of the forging, because a large part of being chosen to be forged into a Stormcast is that Sigmar gazes upon your soul at the moment of your death and selects you at that moment to be a Stormcast. Huh. So you have to be a mortal who died in a situation where Sigmar looks favorably upon you and says, yes, you are a Stormcast. Not by your body, not by your mind necessarily, but by your actions and your soul. I have deemed you worthy. It's also part of the reason why Nagash fucking hates Sigmar, because Sigmar looks at them, at those freshly dead souls, and goes yoink, and Nagash goes, bitch, that's fucking mine. Which is actually, that was a big reason for the Sacrosanct Chamber, was because Nagash started picking apart the souls as they were being reforged. He'd steal a little piece of the soul,
right? And
so the reason the Sacrosanct Chamber left Azir is because they kept seeing their guys coming back, getting reforged, but being a little less every time. And so the Sacrosanct Chamber left to try and go, A, figure out the reason why, and B, figure out if they can fix it. And that's why you had the Sacrosanct Chamber going out and exploring and being playable units and models on tabletop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any other questions you might have?
Yeah, maybe this question isn't going to proc as many discussions as I'm thinking it's going to, but what would you guys say is the key differences between Age of Sigmar Chaos Gods and 40k Chaos Gods? Are there any big
It's a lot easier to punch an Age of Sigmar god in the face.
Yeah. Also, Age of Sigmar gods pre-exist the worlds, and they existed before. I'm just gonna say the word the seeding of all races, and
that's a big thing in 40k is it's not really clear when the Chaos Gods existed.
Yeah.
Whereas in Age of Sigmar, they technically existed before the Age of Sigmar, but they don't really become relevant until the Age of Chaos. And so it kind of puts everyone on more of an equal footing. Would that be a good way to say it?
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of the story of everything leading into Age of Sigmar, the Chaos Gods are relatively new.
No. I wouldn't say new, because fantasy still technically happened. All that shit happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's more a new chapter for them.
Okay.
So, like, Nurgle, still Nurgle. Slaanesh, still Slaanesh.
Nowhere near as strong.
But yeah, they're not as strong, and especially in the case of Slaanesh, Slaanesh isn't even active. Slaanesh is still very much imprisoned.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, during the Age of Sigmar. And so that'll eventually be a addition update where, oh hey, Slaanesh broke free. Da, 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 da. But yeah, it's the scale of everything is just lowered.
Right.
Because
so galactic, it's just planetary.
Yeah, a few planets, but yes. So in 40K, Nurgle is very much, oh hey, I lost on this one planet where millions of people died, and I lost 3 greater demons, and and oh look at that, we're gonna do this again next Wednesday. Like, that's very much 40K.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Age of Sigmar, it's very much, oh hey, you see that one demon prince that we basically true killed? Talking about the Redeemed. Yeah, that was a huge fucking deal, because that was a demon prince. It's not just the fact that they redeemed him, it's also the fact that he was a demon prince.
No. That was not just a demon prince, that was a great unclean one.
Oh, it was a great unclean one?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I thought it was a demon prince.
It was a greater demon.
Oh, okay.
Tornig was a greater demon, not just a demon prince.
Okay,
and that's the reason why it was such a big deal. And like in 40K, you can lose
a couple hundred demons or some shit.
Yeah, a couple hundred greater demons, and that's probably just another Tuesday. You lose your 2 greater demons in Age of Sigmar, and that's a much bigger deal.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the Chaos Gods during this versus 40K. It seems like, because in 40K, it's like, to a small degree, it seems like, oh cool, like you've been fucking around as a Khorne follower for a hot minute, you've killed a fuck ton of like really strong shit, congratulations, you're a greater demon now. Whereas in Age of Sigmar and before that, it kind of seems like they're more selective. I'm guessing, is that kind of true? They're more selective of who becomes.
I'd say that.
Everyone but Tzeentch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, Tzeentch is still, in my opinion, what is the most powerful chaos god in Age of Sigmar. It just there, constantly changing things, ever being just a menace to society, and not really giving a damn about the game.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So speaking of Tzeentch, Seriously told me about the Changeling, playing as the Changeling in Total War Warhammer 3 or Total War 3 Warhammer. Any of the shit the Changeling does he actually do that in?
So that's more fantasy stuff.
Okay.
Is the Changeling in AOS?
Yes.
Yeah, he is. I can't think of anything he's done.
Because like in Total War, he has like a list of pranks that you can do, and I think he told me that one of them is like flooding Lustria or like flipping Lustria or some shit. Is that something that like he actually did in?
Fantasy is not really our shtick, to be honest.
Gotcha. Okay.
That is very much a Jacob question.
Okay.
Yeah, he would definitely know more about that. But yeah, the Changeling, he absolutely does exist. So he's a demon of Tzeentch. Or demon prince. He's something. He's fucking something, man.
Here's something really weird about Tzeentch. Tzeentch is all about knowledge and ever change.
Yeah.
I swear, for the weirdest reason, his followers are way more jacked than Khorne's followers.
No. I know what the secret is. They know the secret of protein shakes.
Because those guys are chiseled.
Yeah, they are fucking like Khorne's guys are very much power lifters. They look like bodybuilders and like, oh, they're strong.
Yeah.
Dude, Tzeentch's guys.
World's strongest men going on here, okay?
Yeah.
Let me actually bring in like a couple of the shirtless guys or something. Your average follower of Khorne, okay?
Right.
Like, yeah, that's okay. Let me go show you Tzeentch.
Oh no!
Like these guys, they definitely go to the gym and work out. Right now, let's go look at the disciples of Tzeentch. Oh yeah, the Changeling. There he is.
Here are your basic Look how chiseled that is!
Yeah,
my God,
those guys, Mr. Olympic.
Oh my God, you could grind meat on those.
No, yeah, really.
Jesus.
And it is stated in the books that like you get this mask, like this like half crescent moon mask of some sort, and you just get ripped.
Gentlemen. Protein.
I don't know what it is up with it. I'm just saying. I think Tzeentch likes Greek mythology, and that shows.
And with Slaanesh, you just get slim and sexy. That's all it is, right?
No.
Anyway,
Mitchell, show him Slaanesh.
No.
I hate how they did this entire new thing.
Yeah, it's not very intuitive.
Oh, let's see.
Funnily enough, in the really high-end guys, you actually get a lot of armor. Yeah, no, for Slaanesh, you get twinks.
Is that a politically correct term?
It is now.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure, but like they're very much slender. They definitely are muscular, but they are a lot more slender and like aesthetically appealing. Is the way I'm gonna phrase that.
No, I got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
They're more about agility.
Yeah,
you can tell that by how they look.
I'm fast as fuck, but I'm glass.
yeah. No,
that's exactly how they play.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I'm surprised you got that out of that at one picture.
Yeah. Now show them some of the mutated ones because that's also pretty important. So that's a big thing about Khorne and Tzeentch is
such a good model.
Oh, it is.
I'm not a Slaanesh fan, but I do appreciate that model.
Yeah, those are the twins. There's the reason why there's two of them is because those are technically two different models. They come from the same kit. Oh yeah, and then there's Mr. Assless Chaps.
What?
Yeah, Sigvald.
Did you not know that?
No.
Yeah, no, those are Assless Chaps.
I hate that.
Yeah, basically his entire back is unarmored because the whole point is that like he's supposed to be such a great swordsman you can never stab him in the back.
Oh.
Yeah, so of course they don't have a 3D rendering of him.
Of course they don't. Lord of Pain.
This is probably a little better when it comes to mutation.
Yeah, and some of the like self-flagellation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what's in his mouth. Yeah, I hate everything about that.
Yeah. Pull up the man harp.
Oh no. That name alone worries me.
It should be in there. It'll be a single model entity. There it is. The man harp. Yeah, so that is a
what the fuck?
So the purple creature, that's a demon of Slaanesh. That's a oh my god, I'm blanking on it.
Infernal and Raptress?
That's technically what she is, but no, I'm trying to think of the general term for the demons of Slaanesh. Demonette. So that is a very specific demonette. Which the demonettes are like the lowest form of demon for Slaanesh. This is a very specific one. And yeah, like that's literally using the man's tendons as harp strings.
Yeah, the longer I look at the harp and the man and where everything's connected to, the more
disturbing it is.
Yeah.
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 Lobster claw. Definitely not waifu material.
Yeah, the demonettes of Slaanesh, they actually have two giant claws, one on each arm.
So
they don't have hands. And then there's oh god, what is her name? The Mask.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The Mask.
So real quick, on the left there, Silesk. We actually did, whenever we were covering Slaanesh, we read a little bit into their backstory. They're really unique. Mitchell, do you want to pull that up real quick? Okay. So, Sil is the name of the demonette up top. Esk is the name of the mortal man that's carrying her. So, the whole point of these two is that Sil was a demonette who worked in the... Or no, Sil was, I think she worked in the Palace of Slaanesh, serving Slaanesh directly. Or, no, because Slaanesh was already in prison.
Isn't that the Mask?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Mask. No, so Sil worked in the gladiatorial pits in the Palace of Slaanesh. Mm-hmm. And Esk was her champion.
Oh, okay.
Was her mortal champion. And he was a truly phenomenal gladiator. Sil ended up getting romantic feelings for Esk.
Oh.
And basically for developing romantic feelings, the other demonettes turned on her and killed her.
Oh, shit.
When demons are killed, they have an opportunity to go to what's called the Soul Forge. So either a demon, this is any demon, can wait in the warp and slowly reconvalesce their powers. Or they can go to the Soul Forge. The Soul Forge turns them into soul grinders, the creatures from Warhammer Total War.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a demon that has made a pact with the demons of the Soul Forge and is put into one of those mechanical contraptions for it's either a period of time or a number of kills. And whenever that time is up and they've achieved their goal, they then regain their consciousness and regain their body. So it's seen as a faster way to get back. But you basically become a mindless slave to whoever your owner is until you do.
Shit.
So Syl decides that she wants to go ahead and get back as quickly as possible. So she makes a deal and gets turned into a soul grinder. And she goes on killing and killing and killing and killing and killing. And she's supposed to kill like 1,000 people or something like that. Harvest 1,000 souls. So then she's killed. She's down to her last kill. And she ends up back in the gladiatorial pits of the Palace of Slaanesh. And her final opponent is Esk.
Oh, shit.
She's mindless at this time. She kills him. And immediately wakes back up.
And realizes what she's just done.
Yep. And so she shares her blood with him to heal him and rejuvenate him.
And
but she can't heal his eyes.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, they have to stay close to each other. But yeah, basically they are eternally bound to each other because she provides him with life, and in return, he kills all of her enemies.
Huh. That's
it's actually pretty fucking cool, isn't
yeah,
it?
that is pretty cool. I'm keeping it a buck.
Yeah, Syl-esque is one of my favorite models. Because it's Syl Tongue, I think is her full name.
That actually is a really nice looking model, to tell you the truth, though.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite demonette models. It is a pain in the ass to build, but I love it.
I can tell. What, isn't the mask? Wasn't she like cursed to dance for all time, all eternity by Slaanesh?
Yeah. I forget whether she fucked up in front of Slaanesh or I don't actually know. No, I don't know her Age of Sigmar lore. I don't remember it. I know her 40k lore. I don't remember her Age of Sigmar lore. So I'd have to double check what the Age of Sigmar lore is.
And I'm assuming the majority of the notable demons of the respective Chaos Gods in this are, at least their lore, is relatively the same as like their 40k
It's
variant.
usually similar, but distinct in little ways.
Okay.
Usually the stories are more or less the same at the heart of it, but the details are often different. Syl-esque, for instance, as far as I'm aware, is a purely AOS model. You cannot field it in 40k.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because the story is distinctly unique to Age of Sigmar,
Right.
Because Slaanesh had no hand in it. Because Slaanesh was imprisoned.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Which is why the events were allowed to play out as they did. Anyway. All right. We've been at this for an hour and a half. Matthew, any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, no, I don't really think I can think of any more big questions off the top of my head, to tell you the truth. Yeah, no, I got a big fat nothing, Chief.
All right. Mitchell? Questions, comments, concerns?
No.
I feel like this has been one of our most toned down episodes, like one of our most just casual episodes.
You're not wrong.
I mean, I'm not hating it.
Yeah.
It's just like there's a lot less screaming in this episode. Usually we get pretty loud.
Was that one like that when it came to the flesh eater courts as well? When we didn't have Circe? Is Circe the reason why we scream at each other?
I wouldn't say that Jacob's the reason why. I'd say it's more just he's very energetic.
Yeah.
So we get pumped up.
Yeah, he is very energetic, and it just kind of rubs off on the rest of us.
The amount of effort it took me to just say, let's redo Flesh Eater Courts again while he's gone.
Oh, man. Dude, I'm just glad we stopped when we did. So we did Flesh Eater Courts, and that was the first time we'd ever recorded without Jacob, but we brought on Jay as a guest host. And initially we had just kind of like ramrodded through it real quick, and we were like, that didn't feel right. And Jay was like, yeah, I didn't really like that either. So we were like, okay, do we want to just re-record it here? And we were like, yeah, let's go ahead and redo a little bit of it. And then, yeah, it turned into one of our all-time favorite episodes.
Nice.
Because especially at the end, we tacked on like a 30-minute rant about why the flesh eater quartz are just Bretonia. And Jay, so the big thing about Jay is Jay used to work for Games Workshop.
Oh, shit.
So he's really knowledgeable about the lore.
Yeah.
Both fantasy and I think Bretonia. No, Tomb Kings was his favorite, I think. Back in fantasy.
I think so.
Anyway, he knew so much about everything, and it was just an absolute pleasure to have him on. But yeah, at the end, it was just this like 30-minute rant about Bretonia is the flesh eater quartz. And yeah, it was so much fun. But yeah. All right. Well, sounds like we're getting ready to wrap up. So, Matthew, thank you very much again for joining us.
Oh, no problem. Thank y'all for having me.
Did you at least have fun?
Yeah, no, I always have fun with stuff like this. I've always enjoyed doing podcasts like material. I just don't get to do it very often.
Excellent. Well,
for the love of God, we're going to try our best to continue to have a normal schedule.
Yeah. Dude, this has been crazy because, my buddy up in Waco, he's been having some health issues that I've been trying to help him out with. And studying for classes and getting this intern stuff all lined up. And then Jacob's been having just so much has been going wrong in his life recently, unfortunately.
And then there's just me and you, bud.
I exist. That's my job.
We live 20 minutes away from each other. Just living our life. We work every day, 8 to 5 probably.
Yep.
We do nothing else.
Yep. I wake up, I go kill bugs, I go to sleep, I play games. Not in that order. Then I wake up, kill bugs, play games, go to sleep. Rinse, wash, repeat.
Yeah. Occasionally eating there.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for this episode. Sorry it wasn't a whole lot of new lore, but we really wanted everybody to get the opportunity to meet Matthew and introduce Matthew to everybody.
And catch him up with everything, and
and I think we had
that with us.
Yeah, I think we had some really good discussions in here.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you everybody for participating.
Move this to my living room to get 4 people in this.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, then we can all relax on your really comfy couch. Maybe throw up some lo-fi beats.
Oh man, maybe.
Or just throw up some hentai in the background. One way or another.
How does that fit in there?
All I can think about is your fucking brother. The first time I ever met him on Discord.
Oh my god, he was commentating on porn.
Yeah.
And it was a big black guy and a small little Asian girl. And his words were, how does that fit in there? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And this is
God.
Most clear cut.
He wasn't even the guy watching it, right? It was somebody else had thrown it up. No, that was him. It was him. Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh my god! And you would not know that when you meet him because he is now like the most clean cut guy, family man. Just like goes to church every single Sunday. Just nicest guy ever.
Man's got reasons to go to church.
You're just like, you said what in the past? Excuse me.
Oh man!
And this wasn't a one-off event, mind you. He did this quite regularly.
Exactly.
Yes.
God, Kansas was a wild time for him.
Yeah, it was.
To be fair, it's Kansas. What else is there to do?
I was going to say, there's not much else to do in Kansas. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you all for listening. We will see y'all in the future.
Bye.